It's part of my talk, Mike. On behalf of the DPAC, we want to welcome you to the All Candidates meeting for the Board of Education for School District 19. I'm Britt Hunchuk, and I'm the chair of the District Parent Advisory Council. In a few minutes, we'll meet all 8 candidates running in the upcoming election. I would like to review the agenda for this evening before we get underway. So first, each candidate will have 3 minutes to introduce themselves and share their thoughts about the role of trustee. Thanks to Bruce Tisdale for looking after the time. We will be respectfully requesting that the candidates stay within their allotted time. Following that, trustee candidates will respond to the questions from the audience. Bob Rogers, president of the Revelstoke Teachers Association, and Clara Maltby, president of the QP Local, will begin the question period. These will be broken into 2 sections, one for our 3 incumbents and another for the 5 new candidates. If you have come prepared with a question, would you kindly raise your hand now to give us a sense of the time that may be required to ensure everyone has the opportunity to speak? If you come up with a question during, as we're going through this whole evening, you can find, where'd she go? Ariel. And after the 3-minute introductions by each of the candidates, we'll have a 2 to 5 minute break where you could go and put your name on the list. During the question period, rather than have all 8 candidates respond to the same question, we will use our speakers list to direct a question to a first group of 4 speakers, then add a new question for the second group of 4 speakers. Each candidate will have 1 minute to respond. At the 1 minute mark, Bruce will raise the red card to allow for 15 seconds of closure, should you need that time. If you're asking a question, we will ask that you state your name prior to your question, and thank you in advance for your participation. The final section will allow each candidate a 1 minute close that will use the reverse speaking order that we will begin with now. So if you guys want to look up here, this is how we will start with introductions in your 3-minute time frame.
I assume that's my cue.
Sure.
So I'm Gary Pendergast, up there, number 1. The one thing I'll just introduce myself that perhaps I've got that the other candidates haven't is that I was poster boy this year.
I want to see the centerfold.
Well, there is a page 3. Is that part of my 3 minutes? I've been involved in education all my working life. First as a teacher in Hove, East Sussex, then as a head teacher, a principal, in Worthing, West Sussex, and then again in Brighton, East Sussex. So I pop back and forth. I also worked as an educational consultant the year before I immigrated to Canada in 2005. And that job involved me overseeing 29 other consultants who went out to various schools for literacy and numeracy work. My bachelor and master's degrees are both in mathematics education. In Revelstoke, I worked as Screen Smart Coordinator for 2 years and was a member of the Early Childhood Education Committee at that time. In 2007, I started as an instructor at Okanagan College, and I still work there in a part-time capacity. I worked as the instructor for the Education Assistant Programme for 2010 to 2016, and this work involved liaising closely with all 4 schools in the city. As Arts Council Executive Director, I worked with schools to provide students with more live performance opportunities. With the Revelstoke Performing Arts Centre housed in the high school, I spent a great deal of time in and around the school. 2 of my grandchildren are students at Columbia Park Elementary School, and my wife and I try to take part in school events whenever possible. I served as treasurer and then chair of the British Columbia Touring Council, from 2010, and so I have a great deal of experience working on and with a board that uses board governance as its model. I am passionate about education. And with a school district that is performing so well, I'm not sure whether to go down. With a school district that is performing so well, the overwhelming issue will be for that to continue. Support for students who are challenged educationally is another area that I am very interested in. I would want to see that they continue to receive the best education that Revelstoke can provide. As a board trustee, I want to work effectively as a member of a team to provide the highest quality of education for all students. The school district has some of the best support staff I've ever seen, but the number of students in need of support is increasing, and we need to be ready for this. That must be about it.
Yeah.
Thank you. They're all bigger than me, so. Sorry, Sarah.
That's okay. Okay. My name is Sarah Zimmer. I have called Revelstoke home for almost 9 years. I'm just going to quickly run through some background information, mostly so I can get on to the more important questions about why I'm so excited for this opportunity and what positive and useful attributes I can bring to the board. So to begin with, I have a degree in anthropology, and I am a journey person electrician. I have 2 small children. One is in grade 1, and the other one will be entering kindergarten next year. So as you can see, I am already committed to participating in this school district for at least the next 13 years. I come from a family of educators, so I have spent my whole life talking about and thinking about all aspects of the public school system. And I also worked for an educational NGO in Western Kenya in both an administrative and instructional capacity. So now on to the important stuff. Why will I be a good trustee? When I first started thinking about this position last spring, I did a bunch of research. I wanted to speak to people who had extensive knowledge about what characteristics and mindsets are important to be a constructive member of the school board. I didn't do this to find out what I needed to become. I wanted to find out if I would be a good fit. I will be the first to admit I don't know everything, and I certainly haven't made up my mind on all the decisions I will be asked to make. Instead, what I discovered is that a good trustee possesses the ability to listen, to care about the background information on any issue, and most of all, to approach every situation with empathy and respect. I've worked with a huge range of individuals and groups throughout my 2 professional careers, and in every situation, I approach it with 3 basic principles. First, to always value the work that I do, whether it is sweeping a job site or writing a grant proposal. Second, to treat everyone around me as being worthy of courtesy and understanding. And third, that teamwork is the foundation of all accomplishment. Quite frankly, I care more that ideas are good than if they are mine. I see my role as trustee as meaning that I'm not only an advocate, but also a steward. This often means making hard decisions. However, I can tell you that I will approach all of my decisions with as much information as possible and with the utmost respect for all the parties involved. I will be working to ensure the well-being and growth of a diverse student body, and this will entail helping to make sure that our educators and staff are also properly supported. For my part, I will strive to make sure that our students have the best possible resources while at the same time safeguarding the fiscal security of our school district. As I've said before, we are raising global citizens. Creating a safe, inspiring, and exciting environment for our kids is my ultimate goal. That's it.
Getting this thing right, I guess.
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bill Macfarlane, and I'm a candidate for school board here in School District Number 19, Revelstoke. Let me start by telling you what I believe about public education. Public education is a sacred trust and is one of the basic foundations of a strong civil democracy. Local governance of our public schools is important to student success. Students need to be offered a broad-based educational experience. Our students have a diversity of intellectual, emotional, social, and cultural backgrounds, and our schools need to recognize this. As best we can, we need to provide equitable access to all students. The school environment should be a place where each student can reach their full potential. This includes bringing about reconciliation with Indigenous people, where there is respect for their history, culture, and language. It is vital that we develop in our students the skills of critical and creative thinking. In a world full of change, students need to acquire a desire for lifelong learning. Schools are partnerships, and their success is reflective of community input and support. The school environment must be safe and respectful where all are included. And I think we all agree that the student is the center of public education. In Revelstoke, there is a long history of working together with educational stakeholders to build success for our students. We are viewed across the province as a very successful school district. This history will support the efforts needed to make sure we continue building a strong, vibrant, inclusive public education system for our students here in Revelstoke. As we look to the future, I feel for the first time in a long time, we now have a provincial government that is committed to public education. We will have to soon respond to the challenges in what the government recommends on a new school board funding formula. This will be part of setting budgets that will meet the needs of our students. Teacher bargaining is set to begin in the new year, and I am optimistic that negotiations can be respectful and that there will be success in reaching a new agreement with our teachers. Treating all of our employees with dignity and respect is vital to achieving our goals. With a new school board in place, it will be time to once again to look at our vision, our goals, and our strategic plan. This will be an important component of making sure the district is managed in a cost-effective manner and strives for the highest quality. I believe everyone is entitled to a free, quality public education. It must provide the opportunity for all students to reach their optimum potential in becoming fully participating citizens in a free and democratic society. Our students deserve nothing less. In closing, let me say that I am fully qualified to continue as a school board trustee. I have over 40 years of professional experience and community involvement, and I have acquired the skills and knowledge needed to do this job. This is what I bring to the role of a trustee, and therefore I am asking for your continued support on October 20th. Thank you very much.
Hi, my name is Janet Lemieux, and I decided to run for the school trustee because I have passion for education, and I wanted to give back to the community and the school system that has supported my family for over 23 years. I have a master's in education, and I have been involved in education for over 30 years, from coaching youth in tennis and soccer, to teaching in classrooms, to administering and managing programs, and to facilitating the creation of online and blended learning programs. During this time, I have developed a broad array of skills, experience, and insights, which I believe could be of value to the board, students, and staff of School District 19. My husband, Alan, and I moved here 23 years ago, and like so many others, once we arrived, we didn't want to leave. We would feel very fortunate to have raised our two children, Gordon and Gavin, in this wonderful community and to have them graduate from RSS. We feel the school system is exceptional in the manner in which its programs and services partner closely with the community and strive for excellence. Its small class sizes, emphasis on health and well-being for students, focus on early literacy skills leading to greater student success, and its diverse options of courses and programs speak to the dedication of the staff. The two new schools and close cooperation with early learning initiatives set the highest of standards. So why choose me? Well, Alan and I arrived in Revelstoke in 1995. Since I had been instructing ESL programs in Quantum College, at University College in the Lower Mainland, I saw an opportunity to create and instruct the ESL program at Okanagan College in Revelstoke. After my first child, a funding opportunity arose at OC to help with adults in their literacy skills. So I created and instructed in the adult literacy program. Both of these programs, I'm happy to say, are still serving the community today. I then had the opportunity to work as a program administrator for Okanagan College for 5 years. It was during this time I worked cooperatively with many local organizations and leaders to deliver needed educational training, including the Ed Assistant program and the residential construction program with the high school. Being a program administrator at this time meant hiring staff, managing staff and facilities, advocating for more resources and programs, and submitting educational plans and budgets. For the last 9 years of my career, I worked at Thompson Rivers University and Royal Roads as an instructional designer, facilitating the completion of over 30 university courses at a distance. To summarize, I think these years of working in adult education locally and provincially will provide me with a good perspective when working with the board and the various subcommittees. I also feel that my volunteer work on local boards, as well as my recent work assisting local organizations with their strategic plans, should help me with the governance aspects of the board. So I hope you will support me in my pursuit to become a school trustee. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you, Britt and the District Parent Advisory Council for hosting this All Candidates Forum. My name is Alan Chell, and I am seeking re-election as a school trustee. Revelstoke is regarded as one of the finest school districts in British Columbia. I have always believed and made decisions ensuring that the board focused our dollars in the classrooms. Our students benefit from low class sizes, excellent support from non-enrolling teachers, high levels of support staff, all while continuing to offer a full range of programs to our students. Provincially, we have opened the first Strong Start in BC, led the province in kindergarten readiness, achieved high graduation rates, been selected to pilot literacy programs, been selected for the first rural neighborhoods of learning, which gave us our Performing Arts Centre, Early Learning Hub, Gymnastics Centre, and Youth Services space at the high school. Why are we so successful? The answer is we work well together. The school board, administration, teachers, support staff, parents, and community partners all are focused on providing the best possible education for our students. How can I help? I work well with others and have always advocated for our district. I grew up in a family where both my parents were teachers, and we now have 4 grandchildren in public schools and 1 in Cornerstones. I worked closely with the province to promote that our district was deserving of the investment of a new secondary school and Bigby View Elementary. When we had local bargaining, I saw the benefit to our district of having our teachers start at the 3rd step of the pay grade, and this has helped our district and teachers for the past 30 years. During the last round of provincial bargaining, I strongly advocated that the last piece to achieving a provincial agreement was to increase elementary prep time. We have lots to work on over the next 4 years, including the sale of our surplus school sites, continued implementation of the revised curriculum, moving forward with issues involving class size, composition, and non-enrolling teachers, continued focus on student mental health and well-being, continue to financially support the very successful teacher-led teacher mentoring and inquiry program and new teachers orientation, continue to provide a high level of support for students with special needs. I am very committed to our community. Currently, I am chair of the Revelstoke Credit Union, organizer for the Little Bear Youth Soccer Tournament, and a member of the Early Childhood Development Committee. After 34 years, I am as active locally and provincially as I've ever been, and I respectfully ask for your support on October 20th. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Alan Polster. I'm a 65-year-old retired National Park warden. I've lived in Revelstoke for the last 25 years. My spouse is a resource management wildlife technician, still working for Parks Canada. And I have 2 sons, one who's a University of Alberta graduate in engineering, and the other is a grade 10 student in RSS. And I notice a number of his former teachers here. Both of my parents were high school teachers in a small private Quaker school in Argenta on Kootenay Lake. My mother was the principal when I finished school, so my connection to education goes way back, and my passion still follows. I have been actively involved with my children's education throughout their lives, volunteering from kindergarten to the present. I supported the teachers during their labor dispute with the former Liberal government under Christy Clark, and I've walked the picket lines at Columbia Park Elementary and along Victoria Avenue with the teachers. I was actively involved with the union, the PSAC, during my time with Parks Canada, serving as chief steward and president of the local. I have been actively campaigning for the NDP in both the federal and the provincial elections, and I consider myself sort of a greenish NDPer. My interests include paragliding, skiing, mountain biking, whitewater kayaking, and history, and I may have even flown some of you tandem flights off of Mount Mackenzie with Revelstoke paragliding. I currently serve on the City of Revelstoke Heritage Commission and have done many heritage tours with tourists and the media. Although initially I will face a steep learning curve, if I'm elected trustee, I will commit my time and energy to serving the teachers, students, staff, managers, and the community of Revelstoke to the best of my ability. Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for your interest in our children. My name is Rick Hodgson. Revelstoke, I serve the function as son, husband, father, and grandfather. I first started visiting Revelstoke in 1997 when my first daughter came here. We followed her, visited her, watched her out on the highway as she gave information to tourists. That's when the Tourist Bureau was out there. A second daughter came later, early 2000s. 2007, we bought property here so that we'd have a place to stay when we came to visit them, because visiting family is a high priority for us. In 2010, after I sold my business, my wife and I moved here permanently. When we moved here, we had one grandchild. Now there are 5. I don't know how that happened. Something to do with the second floor of Queen Victoria Hospital, because I can recall standing outside a particular room there, listening to noises take place that curdled my blood. But I'm telling you, it was a wonderful experience, twice. So at this point in time, I have an investment in the school district here. My grandchildren, I have 3 in Columbia Park Elementary School. My kudos to the teachers and staff of that school. I've worked in 3 provinces. I've worked in 6 elementary facilities, institutions. It's the best one I've seen. That school is so welcoming, so warming, so supportive. I get the same feeling that it covers all of the schools in this particular district. So I have 3 there, and I have 2 in 2.5 years who will impact on the system. And I think I'm trying to get in before they get there, because they're twins and the teachers are going to need some help. So at this point in time, I have 2 daughters that work here. One daughter is involved in the business of taking care of 4-legged critters. My other daughter is involved in the business of taking care of 2-legged critters. I'm extremely proud of both of them. They are members of our community who give and care for our citizens. We sold our business in 2010. We moved here, and when I got here, I ran for council. And why did I run for council? It's because I started reading, and I had seen the town change since I moved here since '97. And the changes, in my mind, as far as the community, not the city, but the community of Revelstoke, weren't positive. So that's why I'm running now. We can't ignore the fact that we have a problem with affordable housing. And for us to expect that it's not going to affect our teachers is ignoring it. Thank you.
I'm not used to coming last, so I'll try to make the best of this, all right? Thank you, Britt, Deepak, for organizing this, and thank you for coming and taking time out of your busy schedules to listen to all the candidates tonight. My name is Elmer Rorstad. I think I brought my wrong notes with me. Can you believe this? Oh, sorry. Of course. I've been a school trustee for the past 7 years, and during that time I've acted as the chair of the Finance and Facilities Committee. I came to Revelstoke 40 years ago. Didn't seem that long, really. 1978 actually was my first teaching position. A little bit different situation then. Discipline was a definite problem. I still remember having to bring in security staff to monitor school dances, believe it or not. Overcrowding. The high school at one time, I think, was maybe 400 students above its capacity. This was back in '78. And the town was a frontier town. You can just take a look and compare the number of jail cells in the old RCMP office with the ones in the new one, and you can see the big difference there. So this town has gone through a lot of change. I've been fortunate enough to be part of it, to have seen it, and to appreciate Revelstoke for what it is. Like I said, I came here and I never left. After 20 satisfying years of teaching, I started a local business which I continue to run, and I'm quite happy to say I've had 26 successful years there, and I'm proud of being part of the business community and giving back to Revelstoke. During my years in Revelstoke, I have also volunteered, coached, sat on various boards of nonprofit organizations, started a family, and presently I am a school trustee in Revelstoke and proud of that fact. My background is well-rounded and brings a broad perspective to the role of a school trustee. I represent both the public and private sectors. I have been a lifelong supporter of the public school system of British Columbia. I graduated from Killarney Secondary in Vancouver, got my teaching certificate from UBC, and got my experience here in Revelstoke. I truly believe that all school trustees must be advocates for the importance of our public school system. I believe in the direction taken by public education in offering more personalized learning opportunities for BC students. I can see in my own two boys, who are in grade 1 and 2, their joy in acquiring knowledge and skills at school. And tomorrow, when I meet their teachers, I'll actually find out just how they're doing. Hopefully, this will lead to a lifelong passion from learning from them. I would like to continue to have a positive impact on education in Revelstoke. I would hope that you support me on October 20th, and thank you for listening to my presentation. Okay, thank you so much.
So we're going to have 2 minutes or so to stretch, and if you have a question that you would like to just let Ariel know that you will have a question later on. 2 minutes.
I mean, the old candidates thing, I mean, the meeting is ridiculous. The meeting, some of the things I were asked. Well, the 10.
Our questions are going to be started off with Bob Rogers, and I'm just gonna draw 4 names.
Yeah, no, Bob, you divided yours into 2, haven't you?
Oh, right.
We could start with one for name drawing. Is that what
No, you know what, we'll do the 3 incumbents and the 5.
Okay,
Do that.
okay.
Okay.
So,
Start with your incumbent, or start with your,
okay. So this is for the incumbent, board members. It's kind of a 2-part question, so. What accomplishment by the outgoing board are you most proud of, and what do you see as the biggest challenge facing the incoming board?
okay, here comes the speaking part.
Oh. Elmer, you're first.
Oh, we take the microphone, and remember, you have 1 minute and 15 seconds.
We'll start over.
Did you wanna speak at the microphone?
Yeah, otherwise, sure, that will pick it up.
I think probably the most important thing we've done is being able to manage this, this district at a time when funding wasn't available, when we had to make some tough decisions, and I'm proud that we were able to go ahead and put our resources where I think it counts the most in the classroom, with regards to making sure that class sizes were smaller, with supplying educational aids when needed, and also for directing our resources with at early childhood. Like, to me, I'm a real believer in the earlier you can diagnose and work on a problem, then you can solve it. And I think Revelstoke is an example of that. Like, we've been able to really cut back on our discipline problems at the high school, primarily because we can find out what the problem is at the elementary school, and we can put our resources on that, and it's working. So I think that's one of the main accomplishments that I see. And second part, Bob, could you?
Just the biggest challenge that you see.
Oh, I think you're done.
Increasing enrollment. Okay.
That's pretty good. Just a reminder to you guys, you get a 1-minute answer time, and then when the card is shown, you have 15 more seconds.
So I still have.
Yeah, you were great, you got it. Bill?
It's a good question, Bob. And I think when we try to think, first of all, what might be the most important accomplishment, I think there are many. Elmer has already outlined some of them, and I think they were important. But I think, for me personally, as somebody that's part of an elected body is the fact that the 5 of us on the school board work so well together. It really was all about a team approach, making sure that we met the needs that were out there for the students in our school district. And I think if a board or whatever institution is somewhat dysfunctional, that gets you sidelined and you really can't deal with the important issues that you have to deal with. As far as meeting the challenges, wow, there's a good question too. There's so many of them out there, but I'll say one of them I think is that things are changing so quickly in the world out there now. Changing here, for instance, in our increasing enrollment, that's a good thing, but it also means pressure on us as far as meeting the budgetary needs to provide the resources and educational needs of our students. So yeah, I would say that would be the one right now.
I would say our biggest accomplishment, and it's not just the school board, it's us as a community, is we have built a model school district. On a regular basis, we have school districts from all over BC coming to take a look at our Strong Start, our high school, our early learning, our theater. We have districts all the time saying, how do you do it in Revelstoke? And the answer is a community. The biggest challenge that I see, and I'm sort of a little bit focused on this, is that the next round of bargaining with the BC Teachers Federation is going to be the most complex round of bargaining because we have restored language from the Supreme Court of Canada that's been away from 15 years and now trying to be brought up to modern day language, and it's going to be challenging and mutually challenging in terms of how do we find our way forward. We will, but it's going to be challenging. And actually I'm looking forward to being at the provincial table because I think I can help find the solution.
The body want to continue for the new candidates.
So this is a related question for the new candidates. What do you feel is the most important issue facing public education in Revelstoke?
Alan Polster.
I think that Alan Chell sort of mentioned this, and I think the most important challenge facing the school is class size and composition and support for the wide range of kids that are now incorporated into each classroom. I mean, which is a good thing. I've seen it with my own kids right from the beginning of their schooling, in that there was a wide range of kids in their classrooms here in Revelstoke, and the kids that needed additional support or the kids that were excelled all worked together. They got the support that they needed, sometimes not quite enough. They definitely needed more at times, but I think that's the biggest challenge I see. Thank you.
I think the biggest challenge facing our town right now goes back to what I said with respect to 2010. If you read the literature with respect to the impact of resort-based economies on communities, you'll find it rises exponentially. If we look at our situation right now, employers in town cannot get employees. We're relying on itinerant employees. Itinerant employees do not bring children into our community. They take our resources, but they don't bring children. I envisage in the future that as we rely more on itinerant employees, there'll be fewer children. Also, because of the affordable housing situation, we'll be in trouble, just like the city is. How are we going to get employees ourselves? Our support staff, even our teachers. Imagine a teacher coming here a few years from now and finding out that to work in this town, they have to be a consumer of affordable housing. Read the literature. Whistler, Queen Charlotte City. The mayor of Queen Charlotte City was quoted as saying, "Come visit Queen Charlotte City, but bring your lunch."
I see as one of the biggest issues that needs to be addressed is that we have learned through a lot of research in recent years that kids are not all the same. They're different. Their needs are different. And we need to strive to make sure that all the different needs are supported within our community. This means finding new ways to help kids succeed, and not just in the traditional areas like grades, in areas that are important like mental health, global and local awareness, environmental issues, education about the Indigenous experience. We have learned so much in the last few decades that I think we are now able to start putting a lot of that into practice. There we go. That's my answer.
Gary?
There are a myriad of issues, but the most important one, despite the fact we have heard tonight just how well the district has done, just how great our children are, is the question of poverty. We do still have children in this city who suffer from a great deal of poverty. And it's so great seeing some of the things that have already been brought forward by the schools, the breakfast clubs, the hot lunches, the way in which money is gathered to pay for school supplies for these children. But that's only what we see during the day. We don't see what happens at night. We don't see what happens when they go home. And that's what we need to be working on, particularly with those children and their mental health. That's what's affected so much. So to me, that is the main issue for us to look at in the future. Thank you.
Okay, well, I think I'm at a disadvantage because I can't pick which answer I should choose from to copy, but because they're all been good. But anyway, the issue that I think all school districts face is what to do with the finite resources that they receive and how can they best use it so that our students can be successful. So in this, we have these bargaining coming up, so that's going to impact how we can finance or resource our classrooms. We have a new curriculum, and that puts a big strain on teachers. So how can they be best supported to implement that new curriculum? And how can new curriculum, sorry, I was going to think new curriculum, we had another issue. Sorry, I've forgotten my train of thought. Yeah, anyway, so how can we best use our resources for the students and for the schools with this new curriculum and with the new bargaining coming through within the district, the province. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so Clara? Mine are generic for everyone.
Great, everybody back. Everybody back.
Sorry. So I think what we'll do is 4 and 4, for if you have 2 questions after that. Okay. Okay, possible, my first one. So my question is, describe a basic principle of public education and how it should be funded, because funding is the bottom line from my years in the school district. If we have lots of money, we do great things. If we don't have lots of money, fortunately in this district, we've kept it in the classroom, but it's sometimes been at the cost of personnel, contracting out. I mean, I'm the future president, so I'm here definitely talking about contracts. So how do you think education should be funded? And I guess maybe the second part of this question was, and how would you personally engage the community in supporting public education? Rick?
I'm just thinking, Claire, do you want to ask, that's a big question for one. Do you want to just, you did really ask 2 questions. Do you want to reword your very first question and we'll go to the first?
How public education should be funded?
Great.
I have 25 years experience in education in 3 provinces. I've experienced Ontario's where they have local funding, which at one time occurred here. I'm in favor of that. I think it's more responsive to the needs of the local community. On the other hand, some communities are not as rich. So consequently, there has to be a top-up, and frequently, well, the top-up has to be at the provincial level. provincial funding is great, except that it's not as locally responsive as the provincial part of it. And that includes the bargaining procedure as well. Having been an association president, Kettle Valley Teachers Association, and being locked out on the very first round of bargaining by an employer group, I recognized that if our board had been involved with that, the lockout probably wouldn't have occurred. Local needs would have been involved. But at the provincial level, we lose some of our accountability. Thank you.
Sarah?
Okay, so at the beginning of your question, I understand that you asked for a basic principle of education and how it should be funded. So for me, one of the most basic principles of education is inclusion. And that means making sure that all of our students feel safe, welcome, like they're able to explore in our schools. And then how that's funded also, I'm a little vague on exactly how you wanted that question answered, mostly because I like to really define the question before I can answer it. But I believe that our funding comes from the ministry, but the most important thing we can do is do the research. We can look at our specific community, look at our specific kids, and look at especially where the money should be used. I know this all sounds a little blanket, but I am afraid to speak to something that I haven't done the research for, and my 1 minute to think up my answer here is not enough time for me. So I'd rather be vague than say something that is uninformed. So yeah, hopefully that was.
I should have known you would ask this, Claire. Flexibility is the most thing, because when it comes down to it, the major part of any budget is set by the provincial government. So what you have to take a look at is how are you going to make up the remainder? And that's always a question almost any kind of organization has. And there are some things that we can do. We can cut costs with regards to efficiency of lights, putting in better heating systems. We can go ahead and look at joining other districts to bring costs down on insurance, other sort of activities. But I think it comes down to prioritizing. Like, the pot can only be shrunk so much. What we as a board have to do is prioritize what is the core, most important things that we want to maintain. And I think we've been doing that over the last few years, and that is the classroom, children. And where we have to cut with regards to grounds or painting or whatever, then that's where you cut. But money stays in the classroom.
So I guess the basic principle that I believe in about the public education system is that it's free for everybody, free for everybody. And going along with that, public education funding should not fund private schools. I truly believe that. Who funds it? Well, we all do. And in this province, we do it through the funding provided by the provincial government. As I mentioned in my speech, the government is currently reviewing its funding model for districts. We're going to have to meet the challenge of whatever changes that are there, but we're going to have to deal with that. We're going to have to prioritize, as Elmer says, and then we're going to have to make sure we advocate with the provincial government, the one that as I said, also I think is committed to public education, to continue making sure they fully fund public education here in BC.
How will you engage your community to support public education?
That's a tough question, Clara. You know, I mean, I've already sort of looked at what's involved in supporting from the community, the volunteers that work in the schools is one way of supporting it. You know, going out to the parents of you know, the kids involved, bringing the parents into the classroom to help is really good. I've been volunteering with the school district right through. Sports days, nature walks, inside the classroom, helping out with Christmas crafts, things like that. I think all of these are really good ways of engaging the community in the school. In terms of funding for those activities, I think that it's important that the provincial government adequately allocate funds to the schools so that it doesn't fall on teachers and teachers' aides to fund that. Thank you.
One of the ways we engage the community is to get out there. And so what we do is we have trustee representatives that go to the literacy committee, to the early childhood development committee, to the college board, to the chamber. And so we try to get out there in the community as much as we can. Individually, we try to help out with sports days. Last week with the Reach a Reader, I raised a lot of money, Tracy. And so I think the main thing is to be involved in the community, get out there, be accessible.
Sorry, Claire, I just have a question. Do you mean engage the community in education in general or for financial
Yeah,
reasons?
just to engage how would you engage in support of public education?
Just to support it? Okay. Well, much like Alan said, I think we have to get out and participate in community activities and participate on boards and various local organizations. Be a participant in some of their meetings, and also I think it's really important that we engage the business community. There's lots of linkages that we can do with business communities, with community organizations, and the school district does this very well. They use community services such as the medical clinic or community connections, and together they leverage funds or leverage, you know, they cost share things so that they're supporting each other in both, so that both organizations and the educational community can reach their goals. So I think just getting out there and letting them know how you can help and how they can help you is really, really important.
Thank you. I mean, as the other speakers have already said, and I would echo it, obviously being out in the community is very important, but you already do it a lot. I mean, I follow my particularly youngest granddaughter on Twitter. She seems to appear a lot on Twitter. She doesn't have a Twitter account of her own. This is Columbia Park's one, but she's always there. That's one way. They visit seniors' facilities. So the word is spread, and that's the way we need to do it. We need to go to organisations. Rotary, I'm a member of Rotary. We do get regular talks, and that's the way we can sell public education to the community, by telling the community just how well you are doing with their money. Thank you.
So now we're going to take some questions. Just a reminder that I'm only going to pick out 4 names for each question. So the first person I'm going to ask is Karen Matthews.
Hi, my name is Karen Matthews. I've got 2 children in the school district, one in high school and one in elementary school. My question is probably a little bit more specific, and it's in regards to social media. Social media is of great concern to many that have children in our local schools. How do you address the problems that exist in our schools that are directly related to the misuse or abuse of social media?
Elmer.
There is policy that's being developed, and basically it's, I guess, the policy committee is the one who goes ahead and gets input from it, writes it up, sends it out, and rewrites it again, and then it comes to the board. But it does get out, and most interested parties do have an input into it. And ultimately, we read it and we decide yes or no. And from what I understand, we do have a policy within the district here that we enforce. But it goes out to all parties first of all, and that's the time to go ahead and have your input. Is like, you know, if there is a specific thing or whatever that you have observed or you feel or whatever, then that's the time that you put it into the development of the policy. Yeah.
As Elmer said, the school policy and the school's policy is kind of individual in a way, and the district policy is a bit of an umbrella. But it also is important for parents to monitor what their kids are using and where they are on social media. Be an involved parent in that. You can't just expect everything to be done by the teachers or the trustees in the district to look after that. Thank you.
Okay, so I know that the district does have policy around social media use, but I think the important thing about that is that social media changes fast and a lot. And what we need to do is make sure that we're staying current with the changes and we would need to make sure that our policy is flexible enough to be able to adapt when new things come up. And then the next thing is just openness, communicating with our kids at school and at home about the power of social media. It can do great things, it can do really hurtful things. And when kids understand the strength, I was looking for the card, understand the strength that they have, it makes them feel more responsible. So that's how I feel about social media.
Thanks, Karen, and you're right, it's a real concern. And I think the biggest issue, as everybody says, we have policy, and I guarantee you that every single staff in our district is very front of mind in terms of the importance of social media. But what it requires is communication between the schools and the parents. You may see things on social media that, of course, our staff don't see, and if they're not aware of it, they can't help deal with the issues when they surface in the classroom. So I would say the number one thing is working together in terms of communication, because it is a serious concern.
Tim Palmer?
My name is Tim Palmer. I'm running for City Council. The City of Revelstoke Council will have 6 new councillors with no municipal elected experience. So my question is, what ideas do you have to strengthen the relationships with the new City of Revelstoke Council so that we can collaboratively better serve the community's needs?
Gary?
I didn't have time to write anything. I was going to though. I think it's very clear actually that what we need to do is to get our, as we've already heard, we'll be getting our own vision together very quickly, and then we need to share that with the council. I think we look to, if we can get a slot, which is not easy with council, but if we can get a slot with council, we share those and see whether they fit. And if they don't fit, we need to make them fit, because council is going to be very important to us on the school board. So I think that would be the direction I would go in. Thank you.
Bill?
Good question, Tim. Thanks for it. I think we have a really good opportunity here with the new council, with the new school board, where could be 5 new people on the school board too. You never know, right? You never know. Good answers here tonight, so you never know. the city sets its vision and goals. The school board sets its vision and goals and strategic plan. I think maybe one of the first things that we can do after that happens with the newly inaugurated city councils and school boards is get together and talk about them. See where we have joint issues, where we know we can work together. It's really important that we do that, I think. Something I don't think has happened in the past, really, but I think it's something that as you say, with the new people, it presents an opportunity. One of the perfect issues is land use. The school board has 3 pieces of property that they were in the process of disposing, that we've now listed the Big Eddy property. But that which has involved working with the city staff in the planning department and so on. So those are the types of things that we need to do in order to make sure that we jointly do what's right, where our issues are the same to benefit the community.
The council will be making decisions over the next few years which are going to affect the population of this town. The decisions could increase the amount of poverty. The decisions could drive people out because they can no longer live here. The decisions are going to affect our children. I attended that council meeting, 3.5 hours long. I didn't hear one reference to children at that meeting, not one. I thought, oh, when they bring up recreation, there'll be some candidate up there saying something about children and recreation. No. So what am I going to do about it? If I was a trustee, I'll put forward a motion. Every meeting, there will be a trustee there. We will request time on the agenda. We will give a report. We will request and identify your decisions that affect our children. And we're definitely going to give our input as to what you're doing, whether it has to do with affordable housing or the gobbling up of our town and our dwellings by vacation rentals. That's what I would do. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to take some of Alan's ideas. I think that it would be a great idea for the school to go to City Council and present information on a regular basis, talk about our goals, our missions, our visions for the school district, also talk about their successes and their challenges. I think they should make clear to the city that affordability is an issue in the city, and that even in the future, attraction and retention of teachers could be an issue coming up. There's also a really big event coming up. That's the official community plan. I think it's important that key leaders in education participate in that plan and really give their input so that that is put into the long-term vision of the community.
That's a really good question, Helen, but I'm not like a psychologist or a psychiatrist or anything. So for me, it's hard to know how, to answer that. I think that to have adequate funding in the schools, the counselors and the trained counselors is really significant, really important. And that's, being done now from what I can see from my kids in the school system. So yeah, just maintaining the funding for the counselors, maintaining the access for the kids to the counselors, and encouraging them to feel comfortable with approaching, the school and the counselors when they have a problem, as well as their parents. Thanks.
Bill?
The reality is society is finally dealing with mental health issues, whether it's anxiety, depression, whatever. And I'm not sure that it would cost the school board a lot of money to do that. I think we're doing it already. We do have school counselors. We do have, for instance, medical staff that come into our high school, medical and other professional staff that come into high school to meet with students in hopefully an environment there that they're comfortable with, instead of, say, having to go to a doctor's office or whatever in order to deal with some of their health issues. I think that's really important. It's an ongoing process. I'm not saying that we're doing it perfectly now, but it's something we constantly review, we constantly look at through the social, somebody help me with it, the social development committee in town. We do get advice on how to deal with that sort of thing. And if we get further recommendations on what we need to do, I'm sure we'll look at them in a positive way. Thanks.
Yeah, I think that anxiety has risen in recent years, and I think the school district is working really hard to address some of these mental health issues. If you look at the middle development instrument being implemented in the grade 4 to grade 9 levels, that test demonstrates that the school is really working on making the students feel belong, that they connect with adults. They have a dog that they can go and pat when they're feeling anxious. So there's a lot of strategies already in place in the school, but I think as a school district, we could work on directly addressing some obvious anxiety issues, such as exam anxiety. I don't know if that's already done in the school system. Public speaking, I know all about that. The counselors, they have lots of counseling available right now in the school districts. So maybe we can set up little mini programs within the lesson plans already in place if they feel that anxiety is a real issue for some students. But I would encourage the school district to maintain the current programs they have in place for mental health.
I think this begins with the quality of our teachers, because that's where this is going to start. If the teachers provide a safe environment for the children, they're going to be able to share anxiety far, far easier than if we were to separate them out, send them to clinics, as we've heard already, which I don't think is the way forward. The mental health issues that we have in schools tend to be hidden in some classrooms. Teachers, I think, have a very crucial part to play in this, and because we have such good quality teachers here, I think that the ground is laid for children to come into school, to share the anxieties they've got, and for then the school district to be able to deal with the problems that there are for those children. Thank you.
I see the value and importance of a locally elected school board lying in the fact that you are able to draw on a pool of individuals who are embedded in the community. That means that the community gets to choose people that they know will understand the particulars of our environment. And then that way we are able to do the research. We're close to home. We're always in the schools. That's important because on paper it sometimes looks different than what you actually see. Or, sorry, I didn't have enough time to make a lot of notes. But yeah, obviously I think that it just reflects our community so much better if we have someone, and someone people have chosen. Thank you.
I think locally elected school boards are a necessity. who better knows our community than the individual sitting on the board? And I think we're such an interconnected community. We get feedback from so many different individuals. For myself, I get at store, people tell me things. Post office is a great place to get information back again. And it's just our community. We work together really well here. And I think as a group, we can always come up with a solution. Whether it's favorable to everybody, maybe not, but often it'll be the best solution. Also, it allows us to have local autonomy. We can make the decisions that are best for this local here, or this area, I should say. And I think as soon as you open it up to other ways of electing a body, I don't think it's as efficient. We're a democracy, and as such, like, you know, I think we need an elected body to represent the people.
In my mind, one of the most important functions of a trustee is that of an advocate for our children. And I think this building that we're in right now is a testament to the strength of advocacy of previous boards and administrators. I think the high school next door, the facilities are in it, the facilities are in this, are all testaments to the advocacy that our trustees before have made on behalf of our children. What would have occurred here if we didn't have those people working for us? And then locally, whether it's relations with the medical facilities, social services, policing, these trustees are advocates. And in the coming days and years, I suspect there will be even a greater role of advocacy with respect to the City Council. Thank you.
Thanks, I thought my name had gone over the bowl. There's 60 school boards in BC. Right now, one does not have locally elected, and that's the shoe swap. And as of October 20th, they will be restored through the election process, and then all 60 boards will be represented. The ones who have been dismissed have been ones who have not balanced budgets or not accepted their roles as being an employer. The value of locally elected school boards is, if you didn't have them, then you have the decisions made in Victoria, and you're further away. When we were proposed to be amalgamated in 1996 with the shoe swap district, it was our parents of children with special needs that fought that amalgamation and said, we like the way this board advocates for children with special needs. We won't accept amalgamation. We were the only district in the province that was proposed to be amalgamated that avoided it. And it was because parents, the community, saw the value of local trustees.
Alan spoke to this a little bit. Our collective agreements for teachers used to be bargained locally. A lot of the collective agreement that's in place contains language that was bargained locally, but is no longer able to be bargained locally. It's bargained provincially. So the question is, do you value local bargaining, and would you be in favor of expanding the range of issues that can be bargained at the local level?
Bill?
Bob, you know my answer. As many of you know, I was a longtime activist within the Revelstoke Teachers Association. I like to call it the Revelstoke Teachers Union sometimes. Yes, I do believe in the value of local bargaining. I think we were really successful back when Alan was actually the chair of the bargaining team for the board at that time, and Terry Beidel, Don Standing, who else was here? Does anybody else remember?
Linda Nicholson.
Linda Nicholson, who were representing the teachers, worked hard to come up with a local agreement. That language, so much of it, needs to be updated and brought up to date as far as, 30 years later, a lot of it doesn't reflect anything anymore. The issue is going to be, of course, that list in the collective agreement that says this is local, this is provincial. How do you get to agreement on where you're going to move where, as far as what's going to happen is to local bargaining, which will be at the provincial table.
I came from a background in England where all the bargaining was local because we had our own budget. So in a school, I had the complete budget. I hired, I fired, I didn't do much of that, you'd be pleased to hear. And so I've seen the benefits of local bargaining right up close because it did allow me to actually use money wherever I felt it was necessary. And so if we're able to bridge that gap, as Bill was saying, and actually manage to merge the lists in some way, I do think that local bargaining does give us the opportunity of looking at local issues and funding local issues, which may not be the same provincially. In fact, I'm pretty certain they're probably not. So I would be in favour if we were able to do so.
Bob, I was involved with a lot of the bargaining with the PSAC and the federal government, and that's not even in Victoria, that's like in Ottawa we're talking about. So it's a lot further away. But what we tried to do as a local was to give our input in what was our local concerns to the national component. And I think the same thing is important to have here. You know, have the local concerns brought up into a provincial system so that, you know, we get an amalgam of both of them, right? We address the local issues as much as we possibly can within that, you know, provincial negotiation. Thanks.
It's sort of interesting that the NDP government is the one who brought in provincial bargaining in 1994. And what happened is that when we had the local bargaining, how did you keep it local? And that was the challenge. And so I'll give you one example. We were the first district in the province to reach an agreement. And what we did for a wage increase was what was called government support to education at the time. We settled, everybody's happy. Then all the other school districts come in 2% higher. So our teacher president at the time, Elizabeth Fussell, and I met with the finance minister of the day, Bill's friend Glenn Clark, and said, here's the reality. We negotiated in good faith, we reached an agreement, and now everybody else is higher. And he turned to me and said, well, this is provincial, you're gonna have to find the money. And that's the challenge, is how do you stay local when you have 60 boards? It's great in theory, in practice, it's really, really hard to do on certain issues.
Speaking of bargaining and job actions, do you think education should be treated as an essential service?
Good question.
Sarah?
Okay, so I feel like that's a loaded question. Am I not wrong? Am I wrong? Because obviously we all think education is essential, but once you term it an essential service, and I'm a little bit out of my realm here, but that means that the teachers lose, or the staff lose, some of their bargaining power when it comes to striking. So yeah, that's tricky. And I would need to know a whole lot more about the minutia of the details as to how that would play out before I could give you an answer. I'm sorry, I know I have played this card before, but I don't like to say too much if I am not pretty sure in what I am saying, and I don't have the background research yet. Obviously, if I was elected trustee, research is my thing. I love it. You can ask Mike. I have been bugging him to explain bargaining to me all summer. So yeah, that's my answer.
As a parent, I probably view it as being essential. However, this is a really tough issue. I've been on picket lines. I actually organized picket lines. So until, I think, though, it's a question that's probably should be delayed until it actually is a fact. I don't see it being as occurring, to tell you the truth, especially under the feeling now of with the government and the bodies who are now collectively coming to agreements. For example, from what I'm understanding, there will be some contracts being put forward that the government has stated a certain percentage mandate. Other than that, I don't see anything in the near future like where the government's going to be saying, like, you know, teaching is an essential service. So once that does occur, then I would say, yeah, like, you know, then I'll take a look at what information is out there and make a decision at that time. But ask me 4 years in advance, I just can't answer it.
An essential service, at what cost? Cost of larger classes? At the cost of fewer services for special needs children? Talked about advocacy earlier. Trustees are advocates. But even more so, it's the people in the classroom that work with the kids who are advocates on the behalf of your children. And if those advocates stand up and say that they are so concerned about an issue that they're willing to deprive themselves of their salary, deprive their families of their salary, that they're willing to go out on strike for it, then no, I'm not in favor of the designation. I happen to have a lot of respect and trust in the teachers. Recalcitrant governments in the past in this province have fined teachers, fined nurses. They seem to look around and find the most altruistic group in our society, put them down and fine them. Essential service? No, I trust the teachers. If they're out there, it's for us.
Okay, I think if you talk to any parent, education is definitely an essential service. There's nothing worse than if there's a strike going on and the parents are trying to get, what do they do with their children? They have to go to work. They're, you know, this gives them so much strain. However, if it does come in this bargaining process that they're not coming to agreement, I don't think it should be an essential service and teachers should be pulled off the line. I think it's time that BC set aside their political partisanship, and both parties should bargain in good faith, with respect, and learn to compromise and find solutions that will work for the teachers and students in our community.
We're just going to take a 2-minute break and stand up, stretch, and we'll reconvene. But everyone just stands.
Is there going to be one last question for one last question before it into the 1 minute close? Is that even? Yes, it is. It's even for everybody. Don't worry, everything's fair in school. In school. Welcome back, man.
Okay, so we're gonna have 2 more questions, and then that will be it for tonight. So, let's have Bob go first.
Yeah, then close.
And then my closing.
No, our close.
Oh, then you're one that closing. Sorry. Okay, my closing really isn't that important. Okay, Bob.
Okay, there's been a lot in the media around the province around inclusion and diversity and inclusion, particularly around SOGI and SOGI 123 curriculum that's in place in the province. So the question is, what are your beliefs concerning diversity and inclusion in your schools?
Bill?
I came prepared. As you say, Bob, there's been a lot of controversy around the province with regards to the requirement under the BC Human Rights Code that said that within school codes of conduct, school board policies, they needed to include the item of sexual orientation and gender identity. And really what that says is we all have a sexual identity, we all have our orientation, we all have a gender identity. So we need to respect that. And that means we need to recognize that also affects our children. We need to make sure the students in our school feel safe and secure in our school, are not bullied, and that's really what this is all about. The SOGI 123 is a resource package that teachers can use to bring the issues up in their classrooms at appropriate for each grade level and so on. I have to say, and Bruce is going to put up his thing, remember when we were 6 years old we couldn't talk about sex, and now I'm so impressed with the way my granddaughters bring up those issues, because you know what, they're learning and they should be. Thank you.
Well, I'm delighted that we've actually got SOGI 123 and that the children do have those opportunities that Bill just described. I've read about it. I've seen the difficulties in other provinces. I'm pleased to say that BC seems to be ploughing a very straight furrow at the moment. And I would support all that is going on in classrooms and in schools at this time. Thank you.
Well, my answer is going to be very short. I think it's our job as trustees, as people in the education system, to make sure that our schools are safe and welcoming for all students. It's that simple.
A contrast, Ontario. New sex ed curriculum, government comes in, throws it out. There's now a teacher snitch line in Ontario. If you say one of those questionable words, a parent or a student can phone in to complain about your behavior. God, we're civilized here, aren't we? Very civilized. We accept people for who they are. But I have to add, with respect to social media, bullying in schools is at a minimum because of the staff that we've got here and the board. But once those kids are out and exposed to social media, then they are exposed to bullying. And if you read the newspapers, that's where most of it occurs. So we could do more in terms of teaching our parents what to look for and teaching our children the type of behaviors they should watch out for and avoid online. Thank you.
Our last question is going to be from Sarah Newton.
We have so much here in SB 19, and as a parent, teacher, and taxpayer, there isn't a better district, public or private. But there's one thing I really feel that we aren't giving to our students, and that's in the realm of second language acquisition. If elected, are you willing to seriously, with an open mind, revisit the now 25-year-old question of French immersion in action?
Elmer.
I'm up again, okay. I was there the first time around.
No, that was the fifth time around.
Yeah, okay. As part of, I guess, the write-up that I did for the Revelstoke Review, I stated like it's very, very important to go ahead and have a multi-year strategic plan. And it's not just increasing enrollment. It's also what are we going to do with regards to second language, and in this case, French. Other districts are grappling with this question with regards to different languages, but here, I think as a lot of people have seen, we are getting a large group of younger French-speaking individuals who will very shortly be having children and will be increasing the numbers going through our system. So I think that's one of the components of coming together with a strategic plan. It's not just increasing enrollment, it's also the enrollment's going to be skewed in certain directions, and that's one of the areas that I've seen, like, you know, that like, you know, we're going to definitely have to prepare for.
Sarah, you and I talked about this when we were at the teachers meet, the nominees meeting, and I told you then I'm 100% in favor of it. Obviously, we'd have to look at the numbers and how it would be implemented in this district, but if that had been available, I would have encouraged my kids to go into it, because I think it's really important to learn a second language. And so yeah, that's my answer.
Sarah, you and I talked about this last weekend because I really needed to make sure I did my research for this question. Yes, I support the second languages in our school wholeheartedly. I think French is important. We are a bilingual country. I'm not going to promise that I could make a French immersion school poof appear, because it doesn't work that way. But what I would support are the steps that need to be taken in the direction to increase French language use in our classrooms, just in general. I know that my son is in grade 1 and his teacher gives her commands like, come sit at the circle, please go to the tables, in French. I think that's great. He is super excited about learning languages. He's also learning Korean from his friends in his class. So I think that's something that we definitely need to grab onto as far as our kids are concerned. Also, we do have a large French-speaking population in this town. So there's no question, I think, that people would be interested if that was offered. I know lots of people who also don't speak French at home are interested in having their kids take some sort of French language and have it being increased in the classroom. So, yes, the little card went up. Sorry.
Yeah, hi. I would support a French immersion program. My background is French. My father is French-Canadian. Canada is a bilingual country. It'd be great if there was more integration with Quebec and across Canada. I think the world is becoming a more global place. Global economies require that people require to speak in different languages. It encourages cross-cultural understanding. So on all those fronts, I think learning a second language is really important. As a school trustee, I would support it, but we'd also have to, again, go through the steps. It's going to be a new program. We have to look at the feasibility. What are we going to sacrifice, or what are the cost benefits of including a French program in the school? And any communications and any steps that we take to get this going should be open and transparent and communicated clearly to the community. So I would support it, but we need to do the proper steps and communicate.
So we're going to have the 1 minute closing from each candidate, and we'll start with Elmer. So we're going to start from number one.
I think we are doing a good job of educating our students in Revelstoke. We can do a better job. I support staff in providing a wide range of courses and opportunities for students. I believe in setting priorities that benefit students, such as smaller class sizes and additional educational aids when necessary. I feel that sustainability of the Revelstoke school system can be achieved by effective and efficient management. I truly believe that we can maximize student achievement here in Revelstoke. Thank you, and please go out and vote on Saturday, October the 20th. Thank you.
I think I've probably made my passions quite clear. So what have I got to offer? 25 years in education in 3 provinces. Started team teaching in a primary open area. 4 teachers, 100 students. Ringmaster in a circus. I've taught enrolled grade 3 to grade 9 and adult education as well. J'étais un professeur de français pour les étudiants dans la maternelle à la 4e année. Aussi, j'étais un bibliothécaire dans une école bilingue en Winfield, British, en français, la Colombie-Britannique. I was a principal in a rural school in Saskatchewan at K-9. I've worked at the school district level as an elementary teacher librarian. I've worked at the provincial level. I was seconded to the Department of Education in Saskatchewan. I set up their software evaluation program for the Learning Resources branch. To do what I want to do, I need your support. S'il vous plaît. Por favor, please.
I was talking with a friend on the street, and he said, you know, well, congratulations on getting nominated to be on the school board. And we talked about the other nominees on the board, and we said all of them would make great trustees. Like, there's no downside. I think what I bring is my experience of having grown up in a house with 2 high school teachers, and my mom was the principal. So I have a passion and an understanding about how important education is. I think that a lot of the problems that we have as a society stem from a failure of education, and that if we work on that, work together on it, on the board, and with the teachers, and with the students, and with the parents, and with the community, with the city, that we can have a great, great community. Thanks.
I am deeply committed to public education in our community. Currently, I am chair of the BC Public School Employers Association and vice chair of the BC Public Education Benefits Trust, where I work with CUPE colleagues and employer representatives from around the province. I have participated in 6 rounds of provincial bargaining and 3 rounds of working jointly with the BC Teachers Federation and Canadian Union of Public Employees on improving benefits for their members. We recently achieved a 3-year framework agreement with CUPE and are now preparing for a complex round of bargaining with the BCTF. I strongly believe that I will be able to help find a mutually fair and reasonable way forward on the issues of class size, composition, and non-enrolling teachers. My commitment to public education starts with being a locally elected school trustee, and I respectfully ask for your support so that I can continue to serve. Thank you.
For me, running for school trustee seemed a natural fit, given my dedication to education throughout my career. I have a passion for education, love of learning, and now, since my retirement, time and energy to dedicate time and energy to dedicate my skills, experience, and vision to the board. If elected as a trustee, I would like to bring a collaborative, positive, team-based approach to the board decisions, to ensure that I have a good context and understanding and feeling for the many decisions and policies being implemented by the board. I would strive to be present at school activities and functions. And finally, I will use all of my experience and expertise to ensure that SD19's student success and excellence remains a top priority, that teacher, administration, and support staff are supported in their endeavor to deliver the best possible programs and services, that communication and governance is open and transparent, and that the schools remain safe, inclusive, and fiscally responsible and efficient. So thank you for your consideration.
So in closing, I just want to start off by saying thank you to Britt and the DPAC for sponsoring this. I'm really glad that that opportunity was presented to all of us candidates to be able to voice what we think about public education here in Revelstoke. You stole my thunder, Ellen, because I also was going to talk about the other candidates. My gosh, you have a good choice. It's really good, and I'm really pleased about that. But please make sure you make me as one of your 5 choices. I've served as a trustee for the last 4 years, and I've been really proud to be in that role. So I encourage you to get out and vote. I encourage you to make sure you voice what you want, and I'd also encourage you all in the next days before the election on October the 20th. Actually, you can vote in the advance poll tomorrow and on the 17th, right? To talk to any of us. Give us a call, come and see us, get in touch with us if you have any other questions, so that we can all together show the community how important public education is. Thank you.
I just want to say thank you so much for this opportunity, and thank you for coming out tonight and being part of our electoral process. I'm truly excited and inspired to have this chance to be involved with and to contribute to our children's education. I have always loved school. I want that for my kids. I want that for your kids. Education is meant to be used as a way to explore and grow. Most importantly, as a way to build the foundation for what will later become our grown-up selves. This journey is no small endeavor. And yes, I have no prior experience as a trustee, but we have a number of highly knowledgeable people in this room. And since trustees make decisions as a board, my hope is that with a combination of my capabilities, my fresh perspective, and some outside guidance, that I will prove to be a constructive and thoughtful participant in this journey.
I will autograph them if you've got your copy here. Sorry. Lifelong learning is a right for all children and adults. Every Child Matters was a booklet that we had in England many, many years ago, and I saw the phrase recently in someone had written it here. And it really does reflect what Revelstoke is about. Every child does matter, and I think the work that you're doing to maintain the standards, to support the children, whatever their abilities, is just magnificent. I hope to be part of this process, if elected, because I think we have a lot to offer Revelstoke. So thank you once again for inviting us tonight, and thank you all for attending.
Candidates for coming out and showing us as your passion and interest in our school district. And we are lucky to have such wonderful schools and wonderful teachers and parents that are all involved. We love the kids and we love the teachers, and it's just been really a great experience for me personally to be in this community with my children. So just go out and vote, tell people to go out and vote, and make your decisions on who you'd like for the school trustees. Thanks,
Thanks very much. Thanks very much. Thanks very much. Thanks, Gary. Man, I'll get that signed copy.